Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. Durden, he's 13 in the world. Silva, 16. Totally different styles. We'll get into that in a second. Durden, he's sitting at 33 years old. Bruno Silva's actually older. He's 34. That's kind of older dudes for flyweight. Flyweight, there's not many older dudes. But it doesn't matter, though, in the flyweight division, I don't think. Like, you could be 33 at flyweight and you perform just as good as a 22-year-old. I don't really see, like, too much of a drop-off.
It doesn't seem to drop off
at
too
all.
much. Yeah.
So these guys are high level, man. High level, different styles. Both training in the States. Cody Durden, he's part of the American Top Team. And Bruno Silva representing Fight Ready in Arizona. Brazil versus the United States. Height, Durden, 3 inches taller, but just only a 1 inch reach advantage.
Yeah.
What do you think? Just
T-Rex
overall?
arms. I'm more familiar with Durden. And to be fair, like, as I was like looking, it was interesting because both of these guys' last loss was Ulanbekov. And that was Durden's last fight, where he got choked out right at the end of round 2 by Ulanbekov. But otherwise, I mean, for the most part, his main 3 losses in the UFC have been grappling, all submissions. But otherwise, he's beaten some really good names, mostly by decision, it looks. He fought Arlang Chilang, who I've actually also fought. So that's also interesting. Yeah, on the other hand, Bruno Silva, he has less fights in the UFC from what I can see. But then his last loss was also Ulanbekov, but it was a decision loss. So it's interesting to look at the stats. But yeah, overall, I'm more familiar with Durden, and he is the slight favorite in this, and I can understand why. So, yeah.
All right, so when you look at Durden, he's 5'3", and with 1 draw in the UFC.
Yeah,
he's been around for a while. He has kind of like a very pressure, grappling heavy, but he'll strike with you if he needs to, type of style, and he's gonna grind you out. Like, he's gonna grind you. He's kind of, a lot of people compare him to like a Colby Covington style. Like, he doesn't get tired really, but it seems like
more
I've
like
seen
a break you
Durden.
thing.
Yeah, it's like more of a break you, kind of frustrate you, and kind of have the answers to everything, but not really put you in too much danger. And that's why you see a lot of decision wins by Cody Durden. His losses, it was the one in his debut, Flying Triangle by Jimmy Flick. Then he got finished by Mohamed Makayev by submission as well. And then his last loss, like you mentioned, against Tajir, another submission. So he's just very vulnerable to submissions because all of his losses are by submissions, except for one decision. He has never been knocked out.
No.
And yeah, he's a tough dude, man. It's just you got to put him in a submission to beat him.
Yeah,
that's the thing. He has his submissions as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's got arm bars, multiple arm bars, submissions. He's got a rear naked choke win. He won by slam in the SCL.
But mostly, like, a lot of his he also done kickboxing. He's done boxing as well in the past. A guy that you got to look at it like a guy that knows his strengths and he knows how to use them.
Yeah.
That's the way he fights, man. He knows he's not a knockouter, so he's not going to go out there and try to bang with you if you're a banger, right? He's just going to try to use his game plan, his focus. He's going to go in there and execute that. Yeah. Funny thing is, he's born in Covington, Georgia, which is weird, right? That is very weird. many fights like Covington. That's what a lot of people say.
Yeah.
Now on the flip side, you got Bruno Silva, right? This dude he's a knockout artist, man, but he also has submissions as well.
Yeah.
He's on 3-fight win streak, right? But doesn't fight that often. That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
He debuted during the pandemic.
He didn't fight all of 2022.
Yeah, and then he came back and beat Tyson Nam, and Tyson Nam's not in the UFC anymore. JP Buys beat him, not in the UFC anymore.
Yeah.
3 fights in a row, he's won 3 straight finishes. The thing is, he can choke you out, but he can throw hands, dude. This dude
counter right cross, ground and pound. He hits people hard.
Very hard. And, like you said, he lost to Tajir by decision. And then before that, he lost to Dvorak by decision.
Yeah.
And these two guys, like Dvorak is not really like a heavy grappler, but he can still grapple. And he has probably had the speed advantage against Bruno Silva and toughed out the decision loss. But I think he was in trouble in that fight a lot too. Tajir, he probably just like grappled the shit out of him for most of that fight and got the decision. So like Bruno Silva, man, he's on a roll, but he hasn't fought in over a year. Yeah. This fight was supposed to actually happen in last year in September, but it just never happened. And then since then, Bruno has been out. Durden was not medically cleared for that fight, which means he went to fight week. I forgot what happened there. So Durden did something. So I wonder what's been up with
Durden.
No, Silva.
With Silva.
Because Durden's been injured. Like we already know what's going on. But with Silva, he's been out for like 11, 12, 13 months.
Yeah, and Durden's last fight, which was Ulanbekov, was December. And then...
No, he's been out for more than fucking 13 months.
Yeah.
17 months.
Silva.
Yeah, Silva has.
He's been out a long time, eh?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is because of the inactivity, he's been in the UFC for a shorter amount of time, had less UFC fights, and hasn't been as active. So you got to wonder if it's a string of bad injuries, if, maybe it's a mental thing. You never know.
You don't. One thing I know about Bruno Silva is he's coming to take your head off, and it doesn't matter how long he's been off or on. Yeah. I think his game plan is always the same. He wants to knock you out.
Yeah.
And whatever happens after that happens. I think that's how the fight's going to play out. They're going to come out. Bruno Silva is going to be defending the wrestling. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what, he's at fight ready. So he's going to be prepared to defend the wrestling.
Yeah.
Cody Durden is going to do what he does. I don't think he's going to change anything up. No. But he's going to have to weather the storm against Bruno. Bruno's going to throw some heavy punches at him. Yeah. And can he take it? Can he move out the way? Does he have the movement to make Bruno miss and get him tired? And then he can implement a better game plan because Bruno's going to come out just guns a-blazing. Yeah. And Durden's more of like a pressure fighter, but he's more methodical. He takes his time, things like that. It's hard to say. What do you think? Who you leaning towards?
I'm leaning towards Durden. I think just the experience, the activity. I think he's never been knocked out. I kind of see it that it might be a rough first round, maybe even a rough first round and a half. But I think he'll weather the storm, and I think in the end he'll end up getting a decision. Okay. I completely disagree. I think Bruno Silva goes in there and KOs him.
And KOs him. Yeah, I think that Durden will have some success, maybe. But you saw what happened in the Muhammad Makaev fight. Yeah. Like the dude just came in with a flying knee and then dropped him and then submitted him. I don't know if that's going to happen exactly because Bruno Silva is probably not going to be throwing like flying knees. Yeah. But I think that Bruno Silva has that type of power to where he's going to put Durden in a lot of trouble. And if Durden cannot handle that early on, he's going to get knocked out. Okay. And I think that's probably going to be what happens in this fight. I don't know if he's going to get knocked out exactly, but there will be a finish. I think Bruno Silva by finish, it could be a first round, second round, third round. It doesn't matter to Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva is a guy that finishes fights in any round. He's always a danger. Yeah. Cody Durden, not as much. Yeah. Right? The fear factor. Is there a fear factor? Probably more towards Bruno Silva.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's definitely a higher finish rate on Silva, so Durden is gonna have to really watch his P's and Q's.